Show me later. All right, committees. Okay, look, remember, according to Woodrow Wilson, committees are where all the action is happening. All right, and there are different types of committees. The most important type of committee, the standing committees. These are the ones in the House and the Senate that are permanent. No, you do not need to remember all the committees. Okay, you don't need to remember all the committees. But there are some committees that are more important than the others. These are all the committees, the standing committees here on the left in the House of Representatives. The ones in red are the important ones. Those are the only ones that they ever ask specific questions about on the AP exam. And some of them we talked about. Appropriations. They deal with spending. Okay? They deal with spending. Energy and commerce. Gee whiz. I wonder what type of bills they deal with. Energy and commerce. All right? Committee on Rules. We mentioned them yesterday. The Rules Committee, pretty significant. They determine the conditions under which bills are debated and amendments are attached. Ways and Means Committee. They deal with tax policy. Right? You want to be on one of these four committees. It's really fun. We were looking up committee assignments of West Virginia's House members. I believe it's Carol Miller, our person. She's on the Ways and Means Committee. All right. And the second district, Alex Mooney, I think he was on Energy and Commerce. And David McKinley up in the north is on the Appropriations Committee. How did we get so much clout? I don't know. All right. So these are your standing committees. They deal, like these committees deal with most of the laws that we see. So when a bill gets introduced to Congress in the House, it's going to end up in one of these committees. And sometimes it's possible for like overlapping areas. And by the way, who do you think determines what committee gets a bill? Speaker. Okay. So for example, let's say that there was a bill that would increase taxes on burning fossil fuels. Okay. Does that go to the Committee on Natural Resources? Does it go to Energy and Commerce? Or does it go to Ways and Means? Because it's a tax policy, right? Those committees, different people might want that bill so that they can edit it the way they want, right? So it's not uncommon to have overlapping areas, all right? And leadership in the House, usually the Speaker, if there's any question about where that bill is going to get routed, the Speaker will get to determine that, okay? Now, take a look at the Senate's standing committees. They're a little bit different. They're organized just a little bit differently. Mostly the same topics, relatively the same number of committees, but once again, there are four committees that are a little more important than the others. All right? The Appropriations, the Armed Services, Finance, Foreign Relations, those are your big committees. Those are the significant ones. Not that the others aren't important, but those have a little bit more clout. Okay? And you don't need to remember all of them, but you just need to be aware that these are the big four in each one. Okay? Appropriations is always important because you're spending money. All right? And you'll notice too that things like armed services, foreign relations, the Senate deals more with foreign policy than the House does. Right? These standing committees, they're going to get these bills, and remember, they're the ones doing the work. Of course, remember though, where do most bills die? In the committees. And what do they die from? Neglect, just expiration. They're just there and they die and they never get around to them. Bills are like babies. If you neglect them, they will die. All right? So standing committees are doing a lot of the work. Right? However, okay? However, special or select committees also appear in the House and the Senate. These committees are usually designed for one specific purpose. They're not meant to be permanent. Okay? They're designed for one specific reason, and then once they do their job, they're done for. I left one up here from years ago because it's a good example. This is in the House. They had the committee to investigate the preparation and response to Hurricane Katrina. Where were you guys in 2005? We had like 2, 3. Wow. When Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and just the entire Gulf Coast area, I mean, it decimated everything. Okay? And here's the reason they form a committee to this. Do you know, like, when New Orleans got pummeled by Hurricane Katrina, there are government agencies like FEMA who are supposed to go down there and take care of people. Anybody know how long it took FEMA to get down there after the hurricane passed? 3.5 days. 3.5 days that people were wandering around New Orleans. The streets are flooded. People are all going to the Superdome where the New Orleans Saints play for like some type of shelter. And while they're there, there's no power. Okay. Yes, assaults, rapes. People are getting shot in New Orleans because there's no police authority. There's nobody there. It's every man for himself. And people are getting hurt in New Orleans because it takes 3.5 days to get a government agency there. Question. Does it relate to this? Tell me later. Okay? So Congress says we need a special committee to deal with this because what do they feel like they need to do? What's the number one job for Congress? What's their reason for existing? What do? They make laws. So they're like, hey, we obviously need to change laws to make sure that the next time there's a disaster, that it doesn't take 3.5 days to get people help, so that people aren't wandering around a city foraging for food and wondering if they're going to get raped, beaten, or killed. All right? That's unacceptable in the United States of America. Oof. Right? And once they pass laws pertaining to this, then they're like, the committee will be done. Fun fact, do you guys remember in 2016 when the flooding hits West Virginia in certain locations? In Elkview in Kanawha County, where Herbert Hoover High School is, Herbert Hoover High School got wiped out by floods. A lot of houses are destroyed. A lot of churches are destroyed, and lots of businesses are wiped out. And the government comes in fairly quickly. All right, and they did a good job of providing temporary housing for people. All right, but they're a little slow on getting federal funds to rebuild the school and to rebuild a lot of those homes. For example, Herbert Hoover was supposed to break ground on a new building like a year and a half ago. Still hasn't happened yet. They're still in portables. There are kids whose entire high school experience has been in these little portable trailers. How fun would that be? Especially during COVID era. Oof. Okay. Now, another example currently, okay, relating to, there's the Select Committee on the Climate Crisis. Gee whiz, I wonder what type of laws they're investigating here. What laws are currently in place that deal with protecting the environment? Give me an example of one industry that's regulated by laws pertaining to the environment. Oil industry, let's start with this. When oil comes out of the ground, Paul, what color is it? Black. When you go to put gasoline in your vehicle, what color is gasoline? Clear with this little bluish, greenish tint to it. What happens in the interim? Yeah, it gets refined. We send oil to refineries to turn it into gasoline. Okay? When you do that when you put those into those refineries, do you think it gives off any emissions? Do you think that's done with all clean technology? No. All right, so what do we have to do? Automobiles. Are there limits about what pollutants they can put into the environment? Absolutely. All right. And this committee's saying, what laws do we need to change? What do you think they could potentially change? What are things we could do to create a better environmental policy? What is it? All right, make more hybrid cars or electric cars. The government hasn't banned gasoline or fossil fuels, but what do they do to get car companies to push them to making electric cars? What is it? Specifically, what kind of money? Anybody know? How do you incentivize something for any business? What is it? Close. Tax breaks, tax credits. For example, you guys have heard of Tesla, right? Tesla makes all electric cars. They really started that, and they've been pushing in the right direction. The only reason that Tesla breaks even every year is because of government tax credits. The government says, we'll incentivize you exploring new technologies. And so researching that is really expensive. Tesla every year actually loses money. But their tax credits they get from the federal government help them break even. Okay? It also helps, too, that people see this as the future. All right? What other industries might need to change to protect the environment? What is it? Coal mining, a great example. What about power plants that burn the coal? Is burning coal clean? Not exactly. We wish it was, but uh, you might see eventually coal powered plants will eventually be a thing of the past. I don't know if you saw this, but in Europe, France and Germany have both committed to getting rid of all coal-fired power plants within like the next 10 years. Mallory. All right, great question. And see, that's the thing that this committee is going to have to investigate, right? We obviously have to do something to protect the environment. You can't just abuse the environment. However, right, we have a problem of we have to balance that with jobs. Okay, what are you going to do with all these people who work in this industry? Because how many people are employed because of oil right now? A lot. So, yes, we have to protect the environment, but part of this House Select Committee, what their job is going to be, is to figure out how do we do something that still protects these people in the long term. And what are you already seeing right now with coal miners, though? They're losing their jobs. They've lost it to mechanization. The machines doing their work, and there's a less demand for coal too. Mallory. Yes, they are. And look, coal miners have had to deal with that too. If you've never been around, like when I was growing up, I had friends who their parents were coal miners, and coal mining was a job that provided you with a very good salary, and you didn't need to go to college for it. In fact, I have friends, and I still know some kids who grew up where I did that started coal mining when they were 18 years old, right? But what's the downside to coal mining too? It's dangerous, and on top of that, what does it do to your health? Same thing with working on oil rigs. All right, those are special or select committees. We'll pick up those